If you are 63 years old and have nothing saved, a retirement calculator will tell you that you need somewhere between $1 and $2 million. That number is not just discouraging, it's probably wrong for your specific situation. Because the retirement game for someone with nothing saved and less than 10 years of runway is not played on the savings scoreboard. It is played on the income gap, the monthly difference between what you spend and what guaranteed income is already coming in. In a significant number of real cases, that gap is under $300 a month. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why that's true, walk through the full dollar-by-dollar math on a real scenario, and explain why the advice most people in this situation receive sends them in exactly the wrong direction. Here's a quick gut check before we go any further. Do you know your projected Social Security benefit at age 67 versus age 70? Do you know which of your current monthly expenses disappear before retirement because a debt is getting paid off? Do you know your actual monthly lifestyle cost once those debts are gone? If the answer to any of those is no, you haven't fully defined the problem. And if you haven't defined the problem, every saving and investing strategy you've been given is aimed at a target that doesn't exist. 28% of Americans between the ages of 55 and 64 have no retirement savings at all. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances puts the median retirement account balance for that age bracket well under $200,000. Those are real numbers, and they are sobering. But here's what doesn't make the financial press. For a significant percentage of those people, the problem is not what they think it is. They've been handed the wrong equation to solve. They are working the math on a problem that doesn't describe their actual situation. The wrong equation is, how do I save enough to replace my income? That's the one that spits out the $1.2 million answer. That's also the question that, when you have nothing at 63, produces complete psychological shutdown followed by 3 years of inaction, which makes the number bigger, which deepens the shutdown. It's a loop. And nobody in financial media wants to name it, because naming it would implicate the advice itself. The right equation is, what is my income gap? And how do I engineer it to zero? And here's the punchline question I want you sitting with for the next 15 minutes. What if the problem is not that you haven't saved enough? What if the actual problem is that you don't know what retirement costs you specifically, precisely, with your debts and your payoff timelines accounted for? Because those are completely different problems with completely different solutions. And if you've been trying to solve the second one with the first solution, you've been running in the wrong direction with impressive discipline. I'm going to explain what I mean using a metaphor, because it's the cleanest way I know to make this visible. A basketball team is in the third quarter down by 12. The coach has two options: stand at center court holding a sign that says, "You should have scored more in the first half," or redesign the entire offensive strategy for the 24 minutes of game time that still exist. Only one of those coaches wins games. The savings balance is the first half score. Real, immovable, the direct result of decisions already made. The income gap is the second half. You can engineer it, you can sequence your decisions over 7 years to close it. That is the scoreboard the game is actually played on. And every decision we're covering today, when to claim Social Security, how to order debt pay down against savings, what retirement actually costs. When you run the math correctly, every one of those moves a number on that scoreboard. I'll keep coming back to this. Let me give you the framework I'm working from. Retirement for someone in this situation is not a one variable problem. It's a 5 variable problem. And which variable is actually the binding constraint determines everything. Variable 1 is retirement age, the age at which you stop working. For someone at 63 with nothing saved, this is one of the highest leverage inputs in the entire model. Every additional year has compounding effects. I'll explain in detail. Variable 2 is spending, your actual monthly lifestyle cost in retirement. Not what you spend today, what you'll spend when your current debts are paid off and your working life expenses have dropped away. This number is different from what most calculators assume, and in most cases, it is significantly lower. Variable 3 is income sources. Social Security primarily, any pension increasingly rare in 2026, but worth noting if you have one. Part-time income, if you plan to keep working in some capacity. These are guaranteed or semi-guaranteed streams that don't require spending down a savings account. Variable 4 is savings. Yes, it's on the list. It matters. but it's number 4, not number 1. For someone with 7 years of runway, the leverage you get from optimizing variables 1 through 3 often exceeds what additional savings alone can deliver. Variable 5 is risk tolerance. How much volatility can you actually handle in what you do save? This sounds like a psychological question, and it partly is, but it has hard financial consequences. The wrong answer leads to panic selling at market bottoms. And panic selling at market bottoms does more damage to real retirement outcomes than almost any other single behavior. The spreadsheet doesn't model it. Real portfolios are full of it. 5 variables, 1 income gap scoreboard. In a few minutes, I'm going to walk through a complete case study, a fictional 63-year-old named Gary, with exact dollar amounts and a real 3-phase plan. But first, I need to tell you about the variable most people treat as an administrative formality when it is actually one of the highest returning guaranteed financial moves available to any American investor in 2026. And I mean that precisely, not as a hook. It's Social Security timing. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. You can claim Social Security as early as 62 at a permanent benefit reduction of approximately 30%. Or you can delay past 67 up to age 70, and your benefit grows at 8% per year for every year you wait. 8%, guaranteed, annually, backed by the United States federal government. Inflation adjusted via annual cost of living adjustments. No market correlation, no downside year, no ticker symbol. The average Social Security benefit at full retirement age in 2025 is approximately $1,900 per month. Delay that claim to 70, and it becomes approximately $2,356 per month. That is $456 additional dollars every single month for the rest of your life. To replicate that income stream by purchasing a private annuity, to walk into an insurance company and buy a guaranteed payment of $456 per month for the rest of your life, you would be handing to them roughly $80,000 upfront today. That is the actuarial cost of that guarantee in 2026. With delayed Social Security, you generate the same income stream by keeping your job for 3 more years. That's the trade. Now you're probably going to ask about the break even. What if I delay and something happens before it pays off? That's legitimate. The break even for delaying from 67 to 70, the age at which the cumulative higher payments overtake what you gave up, is approximately 82 to 83 years old. The average American who reaches 63 today is statistically likely to live past that point. For women, the average is higher still. If you're in reasonable health, you will probably cross the break even. Plan for the likely outcome. Here's something people rarely model, but that changes everything for this demographic. You don't have to wait to retire in order to delay your Social Security claim. You can retire at 65, live on a combination of modest savings drawdown and part-time income for 5 years, and then activate the maximized benefit at 70. That's a bridge strategy. Not right for everyone. But it keeps the 8% guaranteed growth running while letting you step away from a primary job earlier. The scoreboard math still works. And here's the piece that matters specifically for someone starting from nothing. Every year you delay Social Security and continue earning income is doing 4 things simultaneously. Your benefit grows 8%. Your savings balance increases. The total number of years your savings needs to fund decreases. And if you have debt, you're potentially eliminating fixed monthly obligations that are inflating your apparent retirement spending. 4 levers, moving the income gap scoreboard the right direction. 1 decision. People around you are going to tell you to take Social Security early. Maybe they mean well. Maybe they know someone who died young. Maybe they just repeat what they heard at a barbecue. Financial planning conversation somewhere in America, roughly every Tuesday for the past 40 years. When should I take Social Security? Take it early. You might not live long enough to get the full value. Who told you that? I've seen what happens. The person giving that advice has exactly as much actuarial training as their driveway. There was a postal worker in the Midwest whose story made the rounds through someone who handled this kind of planning professionally. He claimed Social Security at 62 because a neighbor told him to take it while he could. He locked in a benefit of $1,400 per month. Had he waited to 67, it would have been approximately $2,000. Had he waited to 70, approximately $2,500. He lived to 87. Over his lifetime, the cumulative difference between what he received and what he would have received by waiting to 70 was approximately $90,000 that he never collected. Because of one driveway conversation with someone who is not a financial planner. The scoreboard matters, and most people never look at it. Now, before I get to Gary, I need to make explicit the reversal that everything else in this video depends on. You think the problem is that you haven't saved enough. But the actual problem, the one quietly running the show, is that you don't know what retirement actually costs you. Not generically, not the calculator's estimate. You, specifically, with your actual debts and your actual payoff timelines and your actual lifestyle once those debts are gone. Those are two completely different problems. One is solved by accumulating more capital. The other is solved by building an accurate budget that reflects a realistic future. And if you spend 7 years trying to solve the second problem with the first solution, you will exhaust yourself chasing a number that was never real. Here's how the mistake propagates in practice. A large portion of most 63-year-olds' monthly spending is debt service, car loans, credit card minimums, a personal loan, a home equity line. These are not permanent costs. They have end dates. When the car loan is gone, that $800 per month disappears. When the credit card is cleared, that $400 disappears. Your actual retirement spending drops substantially. But every retirement calculator you'll find online treats current spending as permanent. You need 80% of your pre-retirement income, rule of thumb, treats current spending as permanent. And when current spending includes $1,200 of debt that is going away, that rule of thumb is overstating your retirement spending by $1,200 per month. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that $1,200 monthly overstatement translates to needing an additional $360,000 in savings. $360,000 of phantom requirement, built entirely on debt payments that won't exist in retirement. There's a woman whose story I want to tell because it's the clearest illustration of this I've come across. She was 64, nothing saved. She went to see a fee-based financial planner, a good one, not trying to sell her anything, and came out of that first meeting having been told she needed to save $400,000 to retire with any financial security. She walked out feeling like she'd been handed instructions written in a language she would never learn. Here's what the planner did not calculate. When her debt was going away, she had a car loan ending in 14 months, a personal loan ending in 29 months, 2 credit cards she could fully clear in about 30 months by directing any surplus toward them aggressively. Total monthly debt at that moment, $1,600. Monthly spend, including debt, $3,800. Monthly spend without debt, $2,200. Social Security at age 69, based on her earnings history, approximately $2,100 per month. Income gap, $100 per month. She needed roughly $30,000 as an emergency cushion, not $400,000 to cover that $100 monthly gap, the occasional car repair, and the kind of financial surprise that shows up for everyone eventually. She paid down the debt in sequence over about 2.5 years, started directing the freed up surplus into a basic index fund, built the $30,000 buffer, and retired at 68. She found the right scoreboard. The game was winnable the whole time. By the way, if this is landing for you, hit subscribe. YouTube's algorithm may never show you my videos again if you don't, and the next video covers Social Security break-even analysis at a level of specificity I genuinely have not seen available anywhere else for free. Now, Gary. Gary is 63. He's a composite, not a real person, but a realistic median scenario. He earns $58,000 per year. Take home, approximately $3,900 per month. Retirement savings, 0. He has 2 debts. A car loan at $800 per month with roughly 30 months remaining, and a credit card at $400 per month minimum with roughly 36 months remaining. Monthly debt service, $1,200. Real lifestyle costs stripped of debt, rent, food, utilities, insurance, phone, modest entertainment is approximately $2,700 per month. Social Security at age 70, based on his earnings record, approximately $2,500 per month. Income gap, $200 per month. Gary does not feel like he is $200 from a functioning retirement. Gary feels like he missed a flight that departed 3 hours ago. But the scoreboard disagrees with Gary's feelings. I'm holding one part of Gary's story back until the end of the video. It reframes the whole thing. Here's the plan. 3 phases. Phase 1 runs from age 63 to 66, 3 years. The primary objective is not building savings, it's eliminating the $1,200 in monthly debt. Gary targets the car loan first. Paying it off earliest frees up the most cash flow soonest. Once the car is gone around age 65, that $800 pivots immediately to the credit card. Throughout phase 1, Gary simultaneously puts $500 per month into a basic index fund or a 401k if his employer offers one, assuming 6% average annual returns, and accounting for those phase 1 savings continuing to compound through phase 2. Gary arrives at age 66 with approximately $20,000 saved and 0 debt. Phase 2 runs from age 66 to 70. 4 years, debt is gone. Take home, still $3,900. Real lifestyle, $2,700. Monthly surplus, $1,200. Every dollar of that surplus goes into savings. $1,200 per month for 48 months at 6% average annual returns produces approximately $65,000. Total at age 70. The $20,000 from phase 1 has been compounding for 4 additional years at 6%. It becomes approximately $25,000. Add $65,000 from phase 2. Total savings at retirement, roughly $90,000. 4% annual withdrawal on $90,000. $3,600 per year. $300 per month in investment income. Social Security at 70, $2,500. Investment income, $300. Total monthly retirement income, $2,800. Real lifestyle cost, $2,700. Monthly surplus, $100. Gary's not wealthy. No boat, no Boca Raton, no first-class flights, but he is financially solvent. The income gap is closed. He did it from nothing at 63 with a boring plan executed on schedule. The scoreboard says he won. Not everyone is Gary. Some people's lifestyle will not drop below $3,300 per month even after debt is gone. Some have Social Security benefits closer to $2,000 due to earnings gaps or years out of the workforce. In those cases, the income gap is larger, maybe $800 per month, and closing it requires either saving more aggressively, working 1 or 2 additional years, adding a part-time income stream in early retirement, or some combination. The math is tighter, but the framework is the same. The question is always, what is the gap and what is the sequence that closes it? Honest math, not comfortable math. An honest answer is worth more than a comfortable lie. Now stay with me, because this is where the psychological layer gets genuinely interesting. And in my experience, this is where the actual money gets lost. Not in the spreadsheet in the decision-making process. Decision paralysis is documented, studied, and completely vicious when applied to retirement planning. Sheena Iyengar's research established that when variables feel too numerous and outcomes too uncertain, people don't make poor decisions. They make no decisions. And in retirement planning, the trigger is almost always a calculator output that says you're $1.2 million behind. When a 63-year-old with nothing sees that number, the brain does not activate problem-solving mode. It shuts down entirely. Shut down looks like 3 years of doing nothing. 3 years of nothing makes the gap larger. The larger gap deepens the paralysis. This is how a manageable situation at 62 becomes a genuinely difficult one at 68 without a single catastrophic event occurring, just the compounding absence of good decisions. I've talked to people who changed their financial trajectory at 61, 62, 63, not because their income jumped, not because they found a better fund, because they changed the question they were asking. One of them described the shift as, I stopped feeling like I was failing at something and started feeling like I was solving something. That is not motivational language. That is what happens when you replace an impossible number with a manageable one. The brain engages when the problem has a shape. The structural fix is replacing how much do I need saved with what is my income gap. A $200 monthly gap has a shape a human being can engage with. You can look at it. You can build backward from it. You can make a decision about it on a Tuesday afternoon. $1.2 million does not have that quality. You cannot act on a number that makes you feel like a failure. you can act on a $200 monthly gap. There is a second behavioral trap worth naming directly, because it shows up in forums and comment sections with a logic that sounds coherent until you examine it. It goes, I have nothing saved at 63. I have nothing to lose, so I should take on more risk and try to catch up fast. I understand why that sounds reasonable, but here's what the math says. If you're 63 and you take a 40% loss on a speculative position in year 2 of a 7-year savings plan, you don't lose 1 year. You lose 3 to 4 years of recovery time. And those 3 to 4 years between 65 and 69 are not years you have available for recovery. The compounding that was supposed to be working for you is now working against you. And there is no version of that story where you arrive at 70 in reasonable shape. Financial Forum, somewhere in America, 2026, went all in on a leveraged technology fund at 64. It was up 31% in the first 6 months. Felt like a genius. The account has no further posts. The scoreboard doesn't care about your comeback arc. It only cares about the number on retirement day. Consistent, boring, low cost, a broad market index fund, a target date fund that automatically adjusts its allocation as you age. Expense ratio under 0.15%, 7% average annual returns over time. No community, no hype, no quarterly excitement. Nobody mentions it at a dinner party. And over 7 years with $1,200 per month, it produces roughly $90,000, which closes a $200 monthly income gap with room left over for the car repair and the unscheduled financial surprise that visits every human life eventually. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes. Now, the Gary close. Gary went to a financial planner at age 61, a real one, competent, honest, not trying to sell him a product. The planner reviewed his numbers and said exactly what the numbers said. Gary was significantly behind, would likely need to work longer than he'd hoped, and should start saving as aggressively as possible. All technically correct? Gary left that meeting feeling like he had failed at something fundamental. The number was too large, the problem had no shape. So he did nothing for 2 years. No savings, no debt paydown, no plan. He walked into that office at 61 with a fixable situation and walked out at 63 the second time he showed up having fixed nothing, because the wrong framing convinced him the game was already over. That is the real cost of the wrong scoreboard. Not just financial motivational. When the number looks impossible, people stop moving. When people stop moving, the number gets more impossible. This is how a manageable situation at 62 becomes an unmanageable one at 68, without a single bad decision ever being made. Just the compounding absence of good ones. What changed for Gary was not a raise, not a windfall, not a hot stock tip from someone at a party. It was the question he started asking. He stopped asking how much he needed saved and started asking what his specific income gap was and what sequence of decisions would close it. The answer was $200 per month, a number with a shape, a problem that had a solution, and he started solving it. 3 takeaways. Specific to this exact situation. First, before you open a single investment account, build your actual retirement budget. Not your current spending, what you will spend when your debts are paid off. List every monthly obligation. Identify which ones have payoff dates before your target retirement age. Subtract them from your current monthly spend. What remains is what retirement genuinely costs you. Compare that number to your Social Security benefit at 67, 68, 69, and 70. Find the age where the gap is smallest. That is your real retirement date, the one the math supports, not the one you assumed. Everything flows from that number, not from what you imagined, not from what a calculator built for someone else says, from that specific number on that specific scoreboard. Second, treat Social Security timing as the investment decision it is. 8% guaranteed annual growth for every year you delay past 67 up to age 70 is one of the strongest risk-adjusted returns available to an American investor without any market exposure. Model all 4 claiming ages. Calculate the break-even at approximately 82 to 83. Factor in your health and your family history honestly. Then make the decision with math. Claiming early because you're tired, because you're anxious, or because a neighbor told you to take what you can get is one of the most expensive, impulsive decisions a retiree makes. Third, if you have high interest debt, pay it off before you invest beyond any employer match you can capture. A 20% credit card interest rate paid down is a guaranteed 20% return. Nothing in a standard investment account, a bond fund, or any financial product I'm aware of matches that on a guaranteed basis. Eliminate debt from highest rate to lowest. Once each debt is gone, redirect every freed up monthly payment into savings. That is the sequence. Not complicated, not exciting. Exactly as boring as I'm making it sound, and exactly as effective as boring things tend to be when run consistently over 7 years. Gary runs the sequence. Debt gone by 66. Savings aggressive from 66 to 70. Social Security at 70. Income gap, a $100 monthly surplus. He watches the right scoreboard now. He didn't find a magic investment. He didn't time anything. He didn't discover a loophole in the tax code or a strategy that nobody else knows about. He figured out the right number to optimize the income gap, not the savings balance. And he optimized it slowly, boringly, correctly. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes. 63 with nothing saved is a hard position. It is not a closed door. The math works. You're in the third quarter, down by 12, with a coach who finally knows which scoreboard to watch. The retirement planning industry spent decades building a very comfortable business around the savings balance number. None of those fees went toward showing you the income gap. Watch the right scoreboard.